Beletahunter Productions Publishing. Book Club Recommendations and Excerpt Reading. An agenda will be a brief welcome from me, a platform description about the day's discussion. I will present the book title. I will talk about the book's genre. I will give a little bit about the book as a book description. I will do an excerpt reading, and I will do a summary Q&A wrap-up. Welcome to Beletahunter Productions Publishing. My name is Tanya Hunter. I'm the one facilitating this learning today, as well as the one reading the excerpt. I hope that you enjoy this presentation. Thank you. I routinely make book recommendations for reading. I always like to recommend the books that I've written for you to read. However, I often do other books as well. But for this platform today, it will be a book that I have written. I will do an excerpt reading from the book. I will give you the title and description for that book, as well as your options for purchasing the book if you care to do so. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. The title of the book for this week's book review and recommendations is entitled Who Should Try Homesteading? Welcome to the Homestead Mentality. This book falls into the how-to self-help category as well. The Homesteading series is a series that I created. This book is an introduction to the concept of homesteading. It is intended to excite the mind to consider alternate ways to maintain sustainability and self-sufficiency. Today I'm going to talk about being sustainable and being independent, free from being dependent on anyone just in case you have to. The reason why I said just in case you have to is because the chances are that you will have to, given the most recent situation some of us found ourselves in over the last several months or so. Like I stated before, I grew up in the country, and even though I was not originally from the South, I was originally from the North, but grew up in the South, and I now live somewhere in between. I have that insight of having a different environment. The city life is the city life. I have lived in few cities. The country life is a country life. And I currently live in a small urban area and high urban areas. Not particularly that crazy about that either. I do, however, like some of the convenience that goes along with being in an urban area. I always understand that things are going to get bad really, really fast. And like I stated earlier, I do not want to be preachy. I do not want to write another book or another how-to, what you should do, straighten up America book. I didn't want to write another book about that because people want to do what people want to do. People have received warnings from the time that they have been on this planet to save for a rainy day. Yet people still find themselves with nothing to be self-sufficient. Even though people still find themselves with nothing, we have been told to prepare. Yet we never prepare. And so one of the reasons that I wanted land is because I wanted to be prepared. I wanted land so I could grow my own mini homestead. Now, we all know what a homestead is, right? A homestead is an area that is usually out in the country. It is usually a rural area, and a person can grow his or her own food, including livestock for meats as well. So you can have your own livestock, you can have your own chickens, you can have plants in your garden, you can plant your own vegetables, you can plant your own fruit trees, you can plant your own whatever. You can also have a water well. You can have your own solar system or a windmill to produce energy. You can have alternatives to electricity, whereas you can use an oil lamp or different devices, whereas you can have light without having to depend on the mass industries that we depend on for heat or electricity, water, or food. You can have all those things that you could sustain your life if you had a homestead. So obviously, with me living in a suburban area, I do not have livestock. So yeah, there are no chickens here. However, there's a garden that grows food, and that is what I'm talking about. As far as having a supply of water, water can be stored and collected in bottles. You can plan and collect water however you want to. That is sustainable for you and your family. I want to talk about food right now. I want to talk about food in light of some of the things that has happened throughout our lifetime. Some of the things that happened throughout our lifetime, I was glad that I did not ignore. But some people have ignored. There have been tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, and other natural disasters that has warned us. Yet we found ourselves in a situation where we didn't have certain items already stored up and we were left inconvenienced for several days. Most people never like being inconvenienced for several days. However, those same people never prepare. They never prepare for the possibility that those things are going to happen again, right? So most recently, we have found ourselves not only faced with a lot of shortages of things, but also accessibility to those things. Some grocery stores have been closed down due to the quote unquote pandemic. So even though the grocery stores may be full of food, it may be filled with food, but if you do not have access to the grocery store and the grocery stores are shut down, then you cannot have access to the food that is inside the stores. We talked about accessibility and availability. Availability is different from accessibility. You may have access to go to the store, but the store shelves are empty for whatever reason. It could be because of other people have done what is called panic buying. These people have stored up food, which in turn adds to the panic. Instead of doing some sort of preparation that you should have done a long time ago, this preparation could have been done and should have been done by putting away a few items year after year after year. It should have been done by buying one or two things here and there, putting them away for a future date. These people did what is called a panic buy. So even though you may have access to the stores, once things are open back up, you can now go to the store, but you still cannot buy the food because there is no food there to be bought. There is no availability. Then availability and accessibility may not be your problem. Some suffered anyway because some people had a loss of wages, no money, zero income, or reduced income. Those such people had availability of the food because the food was there in the stores and the stores were open because the stores were referred to as essential businesses. These essential businesses were open, but these people did not have any money to purchase what was in the open stores. So even though they had availability and accessibility, they still could not partake because they didn't have any money. But if these people had prepared and had a homestead, then the impact of the inconvenience could have been minimalized. Minimalized. But if these people were prepared and had a homestead, then the impact of the inconvenience could have been minimalized. Like I stated before, it doesn't have to be a huge homestead to be a homestead. If these people were prepared, then it would have not mattered to them much if the stores were closed or if they had limited accessibility. It would not have mattered to them much if the stores were open, but they still could not buy the food because there was no food on the shelves. It would not have mattered to them if the stores were closed down and they could not get there because of the curfews. It would not have mattered to these people if the stores were open. It would not have mattered if they didn't have any money to purchase any of the food from these stores. It would not have mattered to these people even if they did not have any money. It would not have mattered to these people because these people would have been prepared. These people would not have been going to the grocery store in the first place to do a panic buy. It would not have mattered because these people would have invested in a homestead of some sort. Like I stated before, it doesn't have to be a large homestead. It could be a small patch of land where they could have planted a small garden. Now we come to our question and answering section. This is a section where I take a couple of questions and I answer them after doing a book recommendation and a reading. The first question is why? Why did you write this book? I wrote this book because I wanted to take the information that I had learned over the years in reference to being self-sufficient. Some people confuse self-sufficiency with being independently wealthy. You do not have to have a lot of money to be self-sufficient. Self-sufficient just simply means not having to rely on others for things that most people rely on. I wrote this book because I wanted to compile a lot of information and give some tips on some of the things that you can not necessarily hoard, but you can have saved up for what some refer to as a rainy day. Okay, the next question it says, who is the intended reader? Well, hopefully my book is exciting for anyone. Anyone and everyone can read this book. You don't have to necessarily be a homesteader or interested in homesteading, but is interested in reading because you love to read. So hopefully this book is attractive to you. But I do want the person who has been considering homesteading to read this introduction. I want people who have not been considering homesteading to read this introduction, and maybe reading this will help them think about maybe possibly becoming a homesteader. So this book is intended for all readers. Okay, the next question says, is there a digital format, audio print version of this book? This book is currently in print version only. It is actually in paperback and not hardcover. Then where can one obtain a copy of this book? You can obtain a copy of this book just by simply Googling the title and the author. It will pop up in several places. The main place that most of my books are found is at Amazon. Amazon.com, you go to books, put in the author's name, and all the books from that author comes up. Or you can just put in the title of the book, and then you will see the book comes up. I hope this answers most of your questions for today. Thank you. Okay, so today's book recommendation was given and an excerpt was read from that book. I hope that you enjoyed it. Hope that you will come back again and listen to some of my other books. I would like to remind you that they can be found at Amazon.com, or you can simply Google the title of the book or Google the author's name, and that information will come up for you. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again soon.